Reluctantly.
What started out as just an innocent little chat with Quinn J. Phillips turned into something where I think I bit off a little bit more than I can chew. Today, The Bits join me.
Reluctantly.
This podcast, reluctantly sponsored by Homegirls.ca, a top producing team at Remax Professionals. Also, by Northern Alberta Heating, with work in and out of Edmonton and hiring bonuses for experienced candidates. Email your resume to tim@northernheating.ca.
Reluctantly.
We have Quinn Phillips, Paulina Denholm, and Claire Devaney on the podcast here today, the three women who make up The Bits. The Bits, Y-E-G. TheBits.ca is your website, correct?
You got it.
Now, for, I guess, it doesn't have to be a Cole's Notes. This is a podcast. We can go on as long as we want. Explain to me and to people who may not have already heard of it, what is TheBits.ca and The Bits, Y-E-G?
So The Bits is essentially a female-led, all female, obviously, sports podcast. So we do focus a lot, of course, on the Edmonton Oilers being in Edmonton, but we do try to cater towards more of the casual sports fan because we really feel that that isn't out there in the universe. You know, you've got all these podcasts that are, diving into the depths of the power play and those kinds of things. So we try to, keep it a little bit more fun. We have a lot more fun with, poking fun at players that we don't like. And we talk about a lot of women's sports as well. So we kind of give an audience somewhere to turn if they want to learn a little bit more about sports.
Poking fun at players you don't like. Now, that's right up my alley. I love
Matthew
doing
Tkachuk.
that. Now, the other thing, too, I hate Matthew Tkachuk.
Not
Don't get me.
Yes.
Yeah.
What?
We're not fans.
No, nobody's a fan of him. Nobody's a fan of either one of the Tkachuks. Mind you, if I had to have Brady on my team, if he was on the Oilers, at least he puts his mouth guard in his mouth, you know?
Yes.
Got to protect that face.
It's basically never Matthew. That's the mantra. Never Matt.
ABM.
No, anybody but Matt, that's for sure. And the Oilers completely immersed in the playoffs right now against the Florida Panthers. So we'll get to more on that in just a second. Quinn Phillips, the obvious connection with sports, the Bits podcast. There's quite a pedigree with sports there for you that a lot of people know. If they don't, you're the daughter of Rod Phillips, legendary sportscaster and play-by-play guy in the Hockey Hall of Fame for the Edmonton Oilers. So I get that. And, you were on Global for a period of time and went to the rink as a kid. I would imagine we can find out more about that in a second. But Claire, what's your connection to the sporting world and how did you get involved in this?
Well, just a sports enthusiast. Played competitive sports growing up and that kind of thing. Quinn and I met back in high school days and then, of course, reconnected through my sister-in-law who's with Global. And then, I think Paulina and I saw an opportunity to maybe talk about sports in a way that we didn't feel like it was happening. There wasn't really somewhere for us to listen to the things we wanted to hear about. I'll add to what the Bits is. When you think about the storylines, we think about things like, what are the wives and partners thinking about this playoff run? Or what are the WAG jackets looking like? As much as we're sports fans, we're story fans as well. And so when Paulina and I were talking about it, we went for a beer. Paulina had done a podcast before and we thought, I think we might need a third to balance us out. And it was just, we really did both say Quinn Phillips at the exact same time and then pitched her on it. And then we were in motion.
Paulina, what was your previous podcast also sport related?
It wasn't. It was pop culture focused. So I had a podcast previously with Shannon Burns, who is a radio host in Toronto and also a host on eTalk. And we did a lot of pop culture focused things, movies, TVs, celebrities, that kind of thing. Sometimes sports did trickle in there because that ties into pop culture things as well, which I do try to pull that into the Bits as much as possible because I love to keep, my finger on the pulse of exciting storylines. And I know Quinn and Claire do as well. So my sports background is mostly just being a very passionate fan and also a very passionate participant in fantasy sports. I am the non-athlete of this trio, though.
So Quinn she's the grizzled veteran of the media sort of thing. Did either you, Claire, or you, Paulina, have any media sort of experience prior to the podcasts?
Nope. My background's in marketing. I've edited videos and podcasts, played around a little bit, but no media experience.
No, me neither. Clearly, we pitched this to Quinn because we knew what an asset she would be.
We need you to carry this podcast, and we will also be there.
We like to chat and have beers together, and we love to have fun, lively, sometimes heated debates and conversations about sports and a number of things. So we thought we would take this to a podcast so that, other women or whoever who like to have those conversations feel like they can join in with us.
Do you get to have an opportunity to bring up stuff with your guests? Like, I know you had Claire Hanna on, who was, I mean, it's the nice thing too about it is it's not just professional sports, and I know women's professional sports, there's not as many professional sports for women as there are for men. So, you end up talking and having guests like Claire Hanna, who was part of amateur volleyball, going into representing Team Canada and stuff. And the other things that were happening before the PWHL, it would have been all Team Canada talk or Team USA talk, and more of that kind of thing, the international play rather than professional play. Do you think and I'd like to have, maybe get all three of you chime in on this. Do you think, we'll start with you, Quinn, do you think it was a Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese thing that really jump-started, like put, jumper cables on the women's sport thing as they both left their respective universities in the United States?
You know what, to be honest, I think that there was people before that. The WNBA has been around a long time. I think that Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese were the ones who really, really elevated it to the absolute next level. But women's soccer is another one, I think, that kind of got a little bit of the spotlight. But then hockey, unfortunately, was kind of just that Olympic sport. Everybody got really interested during the Olympics, not even the World Championships. And we've had some incredible athletes. Like, there's no reason that Haley Wickenheiser should not have drawn the attention to, create more buzz. But now we have, Marie-Philippe Poulin is probably, the GOAT of women's hockey. And so that is helpful. But yeah, I think honestly, soccer was one that kind of did help the way. Like, I just think that professional soccer leagues have been around a little bit longer, and the women do get paid better. They were more of the higher paid athletes. So, but yeah, Caitlin Clark didn't hurt. That's for sure.
What is the problem with Angel Reese? Like, why? I don't understand why she's got this ongoing beef with Caitlin Clark. Is it just because, like, it's like almost like a machismo thing? It's like, why does everybody think she's good? I'm better than her. Like, I don't understand why they can't embrace each other and see the good of the game.
I have a great answer for that. It's Jack Eichel and Connor McDavid. Jack Eichel is the ugly stepbrother. I mean, now he has a cup. But it can't be easy to not be when you're as good as you are, and Angel Reese is absolutely incredible, but then somebody is like that much better and gets all the attention. I think I'd be jealous.
I think I love this rivalry, though. I think this is great for the sport, great entertainment. I think that they probably get under each other's skin and push each other to do even better. And so I think for the entertainment aspect of it, this rivalry is really fun to watch. But Quinn's right. I mean, they came about sort of around the same time, and it seemed like Caitlin Clark just sort of exploded and became the face of the WNBA, and Angel Reese, that's gotta hurt a little bit. Not to be the face. There's ego. Like, I mean, there's ego there. I think it hurts not to be the face when you feel like you should be.
Paulina, do you agree with Quinn that was women's soccer that was the catalyst for everything, or did you see something a little different?
No, I think women's soccer for sure. It had a lot of the headlines. It had a lot of the stars. Megan Rapinoe and Christine Sinclair on the Canadian side. Gave people the taste for women's sports. And I know a lot of people who just preferred to watch women's soccer over men's soccer as well, myself included. I just thought it was more entertaining and less theatrics, just more like gritty sports playing. So I think that definitely was the initiator. And then, Caitlin Clark kind of came and everything exploded after that.
And Claire, with the amount of women's sports we're seeing, especially televised, it's probably so nice to see the actual competition and the things being talked about during the telecasts rather than just a bunch of pervy skeeziks watching women's beach volleyball at the Olympics, right?
Definitely. And I think, that market has been there for so long. What we're seeing now is that people are investing in women's sports. They're putting it on TV. And so we're seeing those storylines more broadly. They were always there. The fight and determination was always there. And so I think, the market was ripe for it. And now that people are seeing it, they're like, oh, wow, this is actually very entertaining and very high quality.
The the LPGA has been around, it seems like, forever. And there's obviously been levels of viewership that has gone with that. But it's interesting that there was such a huge gap because LPGA has been televised for a long period of time, but it was such a huge gap before the other sports started getting the attention that they deserve.
I think that for a long time, even myself, you can't help but compare, regardless of the sport, you're comparing it to the men's version of the sport that you're used to seeing all the time. And I think it really especially always clicked for me with international hockey, but with the PWHL, and stopped trying to see it as the NHL. They are not the same, and they're not trying to be the same. And I think when you apply that thinking across the board to all the different sports, the women's game brings something different, and it brings a different fan base. There's for sure crossover, but the expectations need to be different. I think for a long time, in the chat rooms and the comments, it was always, like, oh, they're never going to be as good as so-and-so on the men's side. Well, sure, but they're good in a different way and in a different entertaining value way. Yeah, I just love it. I think it's exciting. And as Claire Hannah pointed out on our episode, she was saying how what's been very cool in the second season of the PWHL is being able to see that it's gone beyond what are the logos, what does the jerseys look like? And now it's into, who's performing on the power play. And we got caught up in that too. We got caught up in the colors and the names, and like, who cares? They get to play in a professional space on TV with huge crowds, and it's past, will we sell tickets? And now it's like, what's their back check look like? And it's really cool to see the sport evolve in such a short amount of time.
It's Wednesday. We're recording this on like 5 days before it airs. I think this will come out on Tuesday. What is the date on Tuesday? I can't think of 27th. Okay. So this will be my May 27th episode. But having recorded it Wednesday of last week, if you're listening now, last night I was watching the Charge Freeze game more than I was watching I don't even know.
Hurricanes Panthers. Yeah.
Because I thought, okay, this is kind of sleepy. And the great thing too, is they were offset a little bit from they didn't start at the exact same time, but that Freeze Charge game went into overtime and it was pretty damn exciting. It had some stuff, had a little feistiness. I mean, some of those girls can be bitches.
And they're letting them hit.
Oh, I know.
It's awesome.
The cross check in the face. And then, I had to go to review and all of the things. And I thought, wow, there is a lot of drama. And they were showing the people in the crowd saying, well, having conniptions and everything like that, and it's a full barn in there in Ottawa too. Is it so exciting? Wasn't it, Paulina?
Oh yeah. We love to see it. I love that they're allowed to be as physical as the boys, right? So that's hockey. So I think it's great as a fan to watch. And I agree. I thought that game was a little more exciting than the Florida-Carolina game. Not that I love watching Florida, unless I have to anyway.
Yeah, we certainly like to watch them lose. One thing I will add about the PWHL too is I love the pace of the game. The NHL honestly is so fast that sometimes, especially if you're trying to get into hockey or start to learn about hockey, that pace, it is still fast, but it is something that you can keep up with a little bit better. And you can kind of see a little bit more nuance in the game. And some of the skilled plays are just that much more obvious because it isn't at Connor McDavid speed. You know, we miss a lot of things that Connor McDavid does because it's too fast for us to pick up.
Yeah, I do want to add something to that.
The refs miss it too.
I was just going to
Yeah.
say that. The refs miss it too.
No, yeah, I
Well
mean,
done, Claire.
he had to get a ref comment in there. No one can catch him. You can't even like keep your eye line on him. With the pacing of the PWHL games, I do think too, like if you look at the earlier days of the NHL, like in the 70s or whatever, it was also different pacing, and it did look like a different game than you see now. And because the NHL created more opportunities for different players and more broadly, players to, come up in that and work towards that. I think it does change the energy and the dynamic of the game. So I think we'll still see the PWHL, its pacing change and the, different types of players as well, which is great. I think that's cool. But I think for, right now, it is nice to sort of see a more controlled plays that you can actually keep your eye on. But I do think it will change and shift.
Paulina, you are so full of shit. Well, you never watched any 1970s hockey. What year were you born?
I've seen highlights, and yes, I was born in 1989.
She likes to remind us that she's the young one, which is why she's our pop culture specialist.
I like to slip in my age comparatively to these two whenever I can. So thank you for bringing that up. I have seen highlights. I grew up, and my brother is the most Oilers obsessed man that I have ever met. And he made me watch Boys on the Bus and highlights previous to that all my life.
You were barely old enough to remember Gretzky's last game in 1999.
Right. I remember. I was 10. It was a great time.
Terry,
Funny,
I knew
you
it was
should-
going to be his last year.
I was going to say, funny, you should break
year.
him up.
Funny, I should bring him up. What's that, Claire?
Well, okay, so it's Wednesday, and a video recently circulated of Wayne Gretzky going into the Dallas Stars locker room post-win and congratulating them. And I just am having a hard time with that, and I was wondering how you feel about it.
That got you all fussy in the britches, did you? Well,
Yeah, my britches are fussy.
They're fussed.
honestly,
You're all riled.
We're riled.
Wayne is an ambassador of the game. I think this is the other thing too. I
He
think
can ambassador all he wants, not in the Dallas dressing room before we're about to play them in the third round of the playoffs. Just saying.
Wow, holy wow! Did you see the whole conversation when they said who is he cheering for and all that?
Well, what did you hear? I didn't.
He said, who is he cheering for? He goes, well, it's going to be a good series because
Yeah, I was like, he didn't pick.
no, he didn't pick, but he did. He was standing in the Dallas dressing room. He's not going to say, oh, I'm going for
His
the oil.
statue is outside of our barn. He better pick. Give me a break.
I know, but somebody here put shit all over his statue too. So, I mean, what's the guy supposed to do, right?
Yeah, he's not feeling the Edmonton love these days.
I want to say I don't support the feces on the statue. I can agree. We were not pleased with him, but we don't like on the statue. We don't support. We don't.
No poo-poo on the statue.
But I will say with Wayne, he's very America now, and we don't need him to publicly root for us anymore. We've got, like, our fans are loud enough. We don't need Wayne's stamp of approval or his endorsement.
To be honest, I'm more excited about Charles Barkley and Shaq Hyman's obsession with the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah.
Take it.
And I kind of agree with you too. Well, growing up the way that you did, Quinn, with your father being the play-by-play guy of the Oilers since Christ was a choir boy until he wrapped up everything. Do you have memories of Gretzky he left here in 88, 2 years after I got to Edmonton. So do you have any memories I don't know when you were born. What year were you born?
I was born in 1981. So
Okay.
When you said grizzled veteran, you really meant it. I am the oldest on the podcast. Thank you for that. My memories of Wayne are certainly when I was older. What's crazy actually is I have more memories of like Mark Messier, Yari Curry. I have tons of memories of, well, not tons, but I have memories of Yari Curry, Steve Smith. I know he's not always a favorite amongst Edmontonians after 1989, but my memories of Wayne came later. So when my dad went into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2003, Grant Fuhr went in that same year, and Gretz actually came and surprised all of us because him and my dad were really quite good friends. And I remember I was working in Yorkton, Saskatchewan. I just got my first TV job there, and he was like, "Oh, I got Canadian satellite. I'm going to look for you." And I was like, "Please don't." Please don't. I don't need you to see me cutting my teeth in Yorkton, Saskatchewan. Maybe wait until I get up into the big leagues. But so yeah, I don't have a whole ton of memories, unfortunately, of Gretzky. So that's too bad.
I remember getting, well, when the first outdoor classic happened, the alumni played before the Oilers and Canadiens played in the regular league game. So that was on a Saturday, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
The day before that, they had a media challenge of some sort, and Kevin Lowe was our honorary coach, and I got to play on the ice against the other media schleps that were out there, and Carius was probably there, and Johnny Sacks and all those guys. So you're rolling your eyes.
Well, Carius, I imagine he took that pretty seriously. So I got to rip on him at all times.
It was super fun, but we froze our asses off, and our team eventually won. And the Grey Cup was there for some reason. And between the two teams, we played for the Grey Cup, and we got our picture taken with the Grey Cup at Commonwealth Stadium on the ice surface. And that was
Cool.
it was insane. And then after that was done, the alumni were going out to do a skate, and all of a sudden I was sitting in a dressing room with Semenko and Messier, and all the guys got Wayne to sign my jersey. I have some crazy stories about Wayne. I once hosted a New Year's Eve party at Fast Eddie's on Argyle Road, Argyle and 75th.
Does that still exist?
It's something else now, but
Is that the one on the corner where you can go bet on the horses?
probably it's by there's
Billy
a gas
Bud's.
station. Yeah, but
on the other side.
yeah, who the hell owned it? Ed. Anyway,
Some guy named Ed.
yeah, it was a
Big Ed.
oddly enough. Yeah. So I ended up hosting a New Year's Eve thing there where I went there and did the countdown for New Year's Eve. But prior to that, I was at the convention center at a Luba concert doing the countdown for New Year's Eve there. And I hopped into a limo and went to Fast Eddie's, and then they didn't even know it wasn't New Year's. It was like 20 after midnight by the time I got there. And I ended up sitting beside Wayne and Janet. So it's
Very cool.
goofy stories from back in the day.
Reluctantly.
This podcast is reluctantly sponsored by Northern Alberta Heating Limited, specializing in commercial HVAC all over the province of Alberta. Right now, they are urgently seeking motivated long-term employees that want to work for a great company. Are you an experienced sheet metal worker? Are you looking for a new outfit? A change for the better? Maybe the place you're at isn't the right fit for you. Well, send your resume to tim@northernheating.ca. They're looking for new people, first through fifth-year apprentices and younger journeymen. They have worked both in and out of Edmonton, and they're offering hiring bonuses for experienced candidates. Get your resume together and send it off today. Email tim@northernheating.ca to kickstart something new or a change for the better.
Reluctantly.
So you don't have a lot of memories of Gretzky, but I'll bet you have a lot of memories of the decade of darkness with your dad being involved with the team then.
Yeah, and that was the end of his career. So I remember the very last game that he ever did against the Los Angeles Kings. They lost 2-0. Like they didn't even score. So that was brutal. So I remember in 2006, obviously when they went to the Cup final. So I remember I sobbed when they lost, and not because they had lost, but because I figured that was probably my dad's last chance to call another Stanley Cup. Right. And that was really important to me, as his daughter. Right. So, I mean, obviously them losing stunk, but for me, it was the heartbreak of my dad finally got to call a good team again, go deep into the playoffs, really enjoy something like that. And he's probably not going to get that again, right? Because, that was the beginning of the decade of darkness. It started shortly after that. But I mean, the 90s weren't exactly a thriving time either. He called a lot of bad hockey at the end of his career, but he got pretty spoiled at the beginning.
Yeah. No kidding. Being able to watch everything that happened with the dynasty years all through the 80s was something else. You see, Paulina, in the 1980s, the Oilers won a bunch of Stanley Cups over the course of. This was all happening before you were born.
I heard something about that. I heard something about the Oilers. They used to be really good. There was a dynasty. I think, what was it, a few days ago, it was the anniversary of them winning the first Stanley Cup,
'84, yeah.
yes, then igniting the dynasty. So to me, I'm thinking like, I love that timeline, because if we win this year, you know, we're starting a new dynasty potentially.
Wouldn't that be something?
And we've got
Claire, let's start with you. Do you think it's even possible for dynasties to happen in the NHL the way it is now, especially with UFAs, RFAs, and trade deadlines and stuff like that? It's so much more difficult for teams to win 2, 3, 4 years in a row.
Yeah, not to mention all the tech too, right? Like the data and analytics and AI that are going into scouting in every game. I heard this morning someone say you can get millions of data points from a single game now. So yeah, winning multiple years in a row seems impossible. However, I think people, want to hang on to that, and I do too. And so let's start with one. That's where we want to start. But I do think that, like we've seen in the last decade, teams win a couple years in a row. So we know that's possible. And I think teams win in different ways. They all have the same information, but they have different players and different ways of winning. And I think that's the way that Oilers can rally to win is just something so unique. And I haven't seen it in another team in the way that we do it in the recent years that I've been really dialed in. Like diehard Oilers fan, grew up in the dark ages, the dark era, decade of darkness. Went to a bunch of games during.
Just to be clear.
Yeah, I was, but I mean, like I grew. So yeah, You're right. But my parents had season tickets. I can't afford season tickets. So I got to go to lots of games, and I don't know. I just think that there's something about this current team that's different, even different from last year, that has given me hope. I'm trying not to, set the bar too high, but I'm excited and I think it's possible. And I think if Edmonton was to win this year, I think that they would be a very tough team to beat moving forward. So yes, and in short, I think it's possible. 5 years in a row, probably not, but I think you could get a few together for sure.
You brought up something that's interesting too, and it kind of spawns from something you covered very early in our conversation here today, was when you were talking about the Bits podcast, the Bits YEG, how it's 3 women talking about sports from a point of view of being fans of the game, but you don't want to participate necessarily in all the minutia. And that's something you just brought up, Claire, is the analytics and all the bullshit that goes in. Like, who's got time for all this crap? I don't have time. The likelihood of goals against is 60% in a 5-on-5 situation. Kiss my head. Just drop the puck. I wish a fucking linesman would just drop the puck too, for Christ's sake.
Totally. And even like scaling it back from all the data points, like, let me tee this up. I have a friend who is a diehard Leafs fan, and he'll be pissed if he hears this. But years ago, we were watching a game with a bunch of friends, and we were trying to talk sports. We were kind of going back and forth with shots a little bit, and then he pulled out a notebook and started writing out all of the reasons why Edmonton doesn't deserve to win, doesn't deserve to have Connor McDavid, blah, blah, fucking blah. And the thing that's so annoying is that, like, I don't want to hear all that. Like, we can have a conversation without getting too into the stats. And I think, like Quinn said, there's so many podcasts and things like that for those people who really want to get into the weeds with it. But we want to be able to have a conversation without having to pull on those things, because we don't have them. But we are fans, and we're just as good of fans as anyone else. And I think that's, we try and give our listeners a bit to take away and into any conversation. So if you're sitting at the pub and it comes up, or NFL comes up, or anything else, you can be in the conversation without having, to have your finger on the pulse for every sport and know all the details.
They have that thing in the back of the jerseys that you've seen, right?
Cool.
Yeah, so that's the thing. How many times they've been on the ice, how long, and all the things that go with that. Sometimes I wish they would just go back to, and Claire, you're Quinn, you're old. You'll remember just old. That when the jerseys had Velcro. Remember Dave Brown, and they were just complete tearaways. They didn't have all these computer chips and shit in the back. All you knew is it was coming off if he was going to fight. And then you saw his shoulder pads that he had when he was 7 years old playing in PE.
Yeah.
That was hockey back in the day.
paper thin.
Yeah, it's changed.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the thing is like with all this analytics, at the end of the day, it is humans playing the game. Humans make mistakes. Humans have bad days. So it doesn't matter. But what's interesting is about like the Carolina Hurricanes, like they have like one of the most advanced analytics departments in the league, and they have built their team like Moneyball style, like based on the analytics. And so we'll see how it goes. I mean, it wasn't a great game one, but I mean,
that's still an interesting anecdote, knowing that they've done it that way. But we don't need to get into the nitty gritty of all the different, like of all the numbers, because I mean, here's the thing: Quinn does know that stuff. I just want to be clear.
Not
like
a lot.
Quinn can like rattle off stats and analytics too. She can. She's being humble, but she can. But that's not really what we enjoy talking about, and it's not really what our listeners enjoy listening to, because we feel like there's more to that story. And it sounds like, Terry, you would enjoy listening to the bits because you also get bored by a math game or a math lesson in sports. So we just think that there's a lot more story there.
Terry,
Yeah,
I also think plus minus is still a very important stat. I know people hate it, but it doesn't tell you much more about a defenseman, quite frankly.
But I agree. Plus minus is one thing, but when you get into the analytics of the likelihood of goals scored against in a 5-on-5 situation and the possibility of depending on whether or not his cup is on inside out and all this, I mean, there's just too many things. There's too much stuff, and that's quite frankly why I have enjoyed your podcasts that I've been listening to over the last few weeks, is because it's been simple, fun stuff about people being emotional about a hockey team, being fans, and the fandom of it rather than the science of it.
I want to know if Connor McDavid's wearing socks that are riddled with holes and if his shorts are barely clinging to his body because he's so superstitious, and that's the thing he cares about, not the stats.
I also want to know when his wife's bar is opening so I can go there and drink.
100%.
I can tell you that from my job position, their soft opening is going to be June 2nd. They're coming soon. Maybe there's going to be a cup celebration there, Terry.
There can't be a cup celebration on June 2nd.
Well, no, but once it's
at
open.
the location.
Okay,
yeah, it'll be ready.
After the 4th series. Well, okay.
I don't think they serve Coors Light in that bar.
Who told you I just drink Coors Light?
You have an aura. No, I'm just joking.
I will tell you.
I will mess with Coors Light. Don't worry.
I'm just joking, but isn't that what they're always drinking in the locker room, is Coors Light or Bud Light?
That is very true, but I will tell you that Terry's daughter is the world's best bartender.
Canada right now.
Canada's best bartender.
Okay.
She's the world-class Canadian Bartender of the Year for 2025. Yeah, she won that earlier.
Well, we would hang out with her for sure.
Oh, shit. Yeah, well, you guys travel around all the stuff sometimes for work and everything. If you ever find yourself in Vancouver, you have to go to the Kiefer Bar, just rated in the top 30 of the best bars in North America.
Cool.
Yeah, so she's there making $26 cocktails and whatnot.
Do you get a family discount?
That's a great
Friends
question.
and fam?
I don't know. I when she was working in Victoria, I went to Humboldt, and I don't recall seeing any percentages off on the bill when it came. So I haven't been to the Kiefer Bar just yet. Paulina, I was going to ask you about your hat. I see you got the Pizza 74 hat on.
I do.
Is Skinner your guy?
So I've been a supporter of Skinner for a long time, as these two know.
Through thick and thin.
Through thick and thin. Listen, when he was not performing well and things were going poorly, I also supported Pickard being in net. Okay, Skinner's got to get his head right. Don't put him back in unless we have to. Pickard is doing amazing. I think, and he's been, I've been a supporter of his as well. But my whole thing is you got to support the guy who is in between the pipes during the game. And I think if we're all there's so much negativity online bashing Skinner when things aren't going well that I don't think really benefits the situation whatsoever. So I think we need to rally behind whoever we have in net at any given point. But I have a soft spot for Stu for sure.
Well, Quinn, why don't you rattle off how many goalies have been run out of town here in Edmonton because of the fans?
How many goalies? That's a great question. I mean, we just start with Cam Talbot, obviously. Devin Dubnyk would be another one. Devin Dubnyk ended up going on to have a pretty decent career. But also, I have to wonder, I know it's like the fans, but I also have to wonder just about development. I think the Oilers are better at developing players now. But back in that time, I don't know if I had the confidence in this team to develop players properly. But who have they loved, though? I mean, we've had some good goalies too, but
Cujo. Everybody loved Cujo.
How could I forget Cujo?
That's like the last one I remember people being overly positive about.
Well, and Dwayne Rollison, obviously, that's the guy that got them to the Cup final. And then Mark Bergeron runs a guy into Rollison and he gets hurt and fate is changed forever.
I feel like I will always have a soft spot for the goalies just in general. Like, so much pressure on those guys.
It's a horrible job. Don't do that job.
It does seem like a really horrible job. Like, it's all mental for them. And that's gotta be tough to be up against. So I just feel like, let's cut the goalies some slack a little bit sometimes.
Is that it, Paulina? Are goalies your thing?
Like, in what way?
Like you're just for some reason attracted to goalies.
Okay, I was like, are you asking me, like, am I responding as a sports fan or a lesbian? I do kind of have a crush on Stuart. It's like a weird, like,
kind of
for me. Yeah, I have a man.
She has the hots for Stu. Yeah.
I do. It's like it's a weird one-off. Yeah, whatever.
The one and only lucky man.
The one and only man for me.
Listen, I want to say in the defense of the Edmonton fans, I was at that game where Stu came back in the last round, and I got like goosebumps and my eyes started to water when the doors to the locker room opened and Stu was in the front and the building erupted. And it really did feel like it was obviously for the game in the moment, but for Stu. And he was cheered for every save, every touch, and not sarcastically, in like the most supportive way. And I think that that's what makes Edmonton fans so amazing, is that yeah, we will rip on our players nonstop. But as soon as someone else says something about them, it's like family. It's like, don't you talk about Stu like that. He's our shitty goalie. And that's for us to get. And we will determine when he gets made fun of. But we will also rally around him, right? Like the whole team has rallied around him. All the fans, like, we love Pickles. He came in, he did an amazing job. But we will support Stu now. He's our guy. And I think that's really special in terms of fandom, because I think not everybody would do that. I think he hears it and he feels it, and he's our guy.
Exactly.
Well, I'm glad that I wasn't the only one crying like a little girl every time Stu made a save. I've been hosting the games at the River Cree, and the venue at the River Cree. So there's 2,500 people sitting in there cheering with everything, oohs and ahs, and every time somebody farts or snorts snot out of their nose, there's a cheering and stuff like that. So it was pretty great to see him come back and perform the way he did.
It was amazing. It was a bit of an emotional moment, like when they're all going and like giving the goalie pats, and you're just like. It's got the special boy high five, which I love to see. I was tearing up too. And then, it's a nice thing to see.
One thing with the bits, we like to pick our special boys.
Yes.
Sweet guys and special boys.
Sweet guys and special boys?
Yeah, Terry, you tell us who your sweet guy and special boy are from tonight's game. Yeah.
So are these like my 3 stars that you're... Or
the special boy award is like for the stars, just to be clear. The guy is like, Zach Hyman writes children's books and he's so wholesome. So he's like our sweet guy Hyman. But the special boy is like, who is the special boy of the night?
Who's going to be special?
Who's going to, like, Connor Brown has been a special boy many times.
Many a time.
Yeah.
Yep. Do you have a special boy for tonight that isn't Connor McDavid?
Do you want to make a prediction? It's totally going to age perfectly when this is aired next Tuesday.
Exactly. This people who might be listening to this on Tuesday when it first comes out, or a week later or something, going back to game 1 of round 3 on May 21st. I'm going to go and by the way, I called Kapanen for scoring the overtime winner.
I bet on him that night.
Did you?
Yes.
Good.
I didn't expect it for OT, but that was just a lucky guess.
Good call. I'm going to go with Podkolzin. He's going to be my
Ooh.
special boy.
Okay.
Okay.
I like that pick.
I think the Podkolzin business is really something that has been bubbling under.
Totally.
And those guys, Podkolzin and Kapanen and what's the other Scandahuvian on that line? Podkolzin.
Janmark?
Janmark?
Love Janmark.
Or as our seat neighbor and the tickets I get to use sometimes goes by Janmark.
Okay. So, but yeah, those guys, the biggest thing about those players is they are playing so well in a defensive manner that all of a sudden they find themselves in a situation where they're playing, maybe Connor's going to be out there for a line, or maybe Draisaitl's going to be out there for a line or something like that. And all of a sudden it just gives them an extra kick in the ass to get out there and think, you know what, if I keep doing my third line duties every once in a while, maybe once or twice a period, all of a sudden one of the horses is going to be out here with us, and it's going to be like, giddy up, let's go. It's like a kettle prod in the knackers.
Well, and it's like we got to see that reward with that Kapanen goal because he was bubbling under the surface for the game, like especially the game before that. He was like a wrecking ball. He just came out and he was so motivated. It was awesome to see.
Yeah, I was planning a campaign to keep him in the lineup, and then he scored that OT winner, and I was like, well, he's staying in. We're not going to see Arvidsson for a while.
Well, Quinn was on the Kapanen train early. She's like, this is the move. And some people push back, and we need to just understand that we should always trust Knobloch and Quinn. Because Quinn was like, no, Kapanen's going to be it.
Arvidsson is the Scandahuvian I was talking about. I know they're interchangeable. If one's playing, the other's not, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to see Arvidsson for a while.
He was filling the role, though. You have to appreciate it's like you said, you can have your stars, you got to have your goaltending in the playoffs, but your supporting players have to be there. You got Old Balls Perry, you got Vander Kane, and Hyman and Nuge are all of a sudden, maybe a second, maybe a third line, maybe together, maybe popped in there with McDavid and Draisaitl and stuff. But everybody's moving up and down the lineup, and they're interchangeable. So it's like the opposition coach, for one, is probably going to be going, oh, Jesus, look at this, Christ. Now we got him with him, and now how am I going to do that?
I didn't even know that guy's name, and he's scoring a goal. Like, I think the depth of this team is honestly what's been giving me all the hope that I've had.
Knobloch must be having so much fun being able to pull from such a deep bench.
Yeah.
Well, something else, back in the day, about 1,000 years ago, let me see, it would have been in between 92 and 95. So you were still in diapers, Paulina.
Yeah, 3.
Well, let's not.
I was a teenager. I had already gone through puberty.
Yes, at 95, still in diapers at 6 years old. It was a rough go.
She's a late bloomer.
It was a late.
Hey, your parents parent the way your parents parent. That's none of my business.
They're like, oh, we forgot that she's still in diapers. We should do something about that.
Back in those days, the Chenauths brought the Edmonton Ice WHL hockey team back to Edmonton after the Oil Kings had been gone for such a long time. I was the PA announcer when Chris Knobloch was playing for the Edmonton Ice.
Terry, I had a crush on Chris Knobloch at that time because I would used to go to those games and watch because our other friend Brad Tuchuk was on the team.
That's Tooch. That's right.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
Who else was? Oh, let me see. I remember Rocky Thompson being on the Calgary team, and he was a little prick.
Yeah.
I've met him since then. Now he's gone on to
really
be
nice
coaching,
guy.
And he's a great guy. But when he was playing, he was an asshole. I remember some of the other players. They had some really good guys on that team, some real character guys. The Ice didn't do much as far as standings or the league goes, but there were some good guys on that team.
Reluctantly.
This podcast is reluctantly sponsored by the real estate team of homegirls.ca, a top producing team at Remax Professionals. If you are buying or selling in the Edmonton region, Shauna and Bonnie can handle everything with strong industry connections to mortgage brokers, home inspectors, lawyers, and contractors to support every step of the process. The market is very active right now. We recently listed our home, again, and it went from MLS to closing conditions in 8 days. Now, of course, results may vary from property to property, but Shauna and Bonnie have been our trusted real estate advisors through buying and selling no less than 7 properties. I've recommended them to many friends who want real, relatable people with a personalized, hands-on approach. New home, investment, recreational, even commercial properties. Homegirls.ca is the website. Email info is right there. And the phone number is 780-517-HOME.
Reluctantly.
We were talking about Skinner and being able to cheer on your shitty goalie, as you call them, Claire.
He's our shitty goalie.
He's our shitty goalie, and you can't make fun of him. We can, because
Yes.
he's our shitty goalie.
Sometimes shitty goalie. Yeah.
The one thing I would like to get into is his California closet. That looks pretty snappy, man.
That is a thirst trap ad is what that is. He is a walking thirst trap in a closet.
I feel directly attacked by that ad.
Lesbians everywhere swooning.
It's just ironic he's in a closet.
That's what makes it so attractive.
As was I before the ad came out, and then I was like, wait.
Closeted straight.
Everything.
I was a closeted straight woman. And then the ad came out. I'm like, wait, now I have to come out again because of this California Closets commercial. I hope my wife is not listening to this next week.
She already knows.
Actually, she's fully aware of this situation.
Every time I see that closet, I think to myself, should I get a wide brim hat?
Yeah, you're like,
Yes.
would I look like that in my closet if I had a
Slippery
California
slope.
closet?
Not everyone can pull up.
Terry, you work in media. It's the only thing you can afford from that commercial.
Is the hat?
Yeah.
You know what?
Those are like $30,000 California closets.
Oh yeah, those are not cheap closets. But honestly, Terry, I think you could pull off the hat, the wide brim hat. I think you could.
I don't know, Terry, how tall are you?
I'm 6'5".
Okay,
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
you can wear the hat.
Fine. You're fine.
And if I get a wide enough hat, I can provide shade for most of the people around me.
That's what I was thinking. Like, will you help other people? And also, like, eye to eye, are you going to hit me? Whoops.
Yeah.
Are you going to hit me with that hat? Because
Is
I don't.
the brim of my hat going to poke your eye out? Is that what you're concerned about?
Yes.
Claire?
Yes.
I don't want any
Okay.
of that.
It can
Well,
be a
you are-
safety concern. I have tried to hug people with those hats, and it's uncomfortable. You're dodging.
Just
You're dodging brims.
Just random people or people you know? Like you?
People I know. No, I don't
You've
just
always-
go hugging random people with wide brimmed hats. Although, let me tell you,
Are you sure?
I don't know. Maybe. Well,
Have you ever taken a brim to the forehead? It's not comfortable.
It's not fun. but
Folk Fest. Come on. There's a lot of wide brim hats.
a lot of
A lot of
brims.
strangers that look fun to hug.
I'm not hugging strangers, but can I'll
You
tell
spend
you.
a lot of time at the RCMP musical ride, do you?
I love to hug RCMP officers. It's just a thing. Everyone has their thing. So, but it's funny because I put this hat on today and I have not worn this hat since Game 6 against Florida last year, which, as you guys can recall, was a really big game, really exciting night for Edmonton fans. And I put on this hat and I noticed that there's like blue and orange paint.
Oh, there sure is.
The brim and like on the back. And I was hugging random people with blue and orange face paints. It brought me back. So I guess it has been known to happen.
I hugged Mama Stanley. I was silver for weeks.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, she is a real presence. She is a national municipal treasure.
Yeah. She's sat
knows
at my
it, though.
table.
She knows it. Fan
I'm
park,
so
and
sorry
we're
to
like,
say this.
"No."
I have like 5 minutes before I have to hop off.
You have 5 minutes? Okay. Well,
Yeah, but you guys keep going. I just wanted to give you a heads up.
that's okay. What, have you got mimosa lunch before the newscast with Carol Ann?
Oh yeah, she loves anything alcohol related.
That's the soundbite.
I'm just
and there's your teaser for
I'm
the
just
episode.
joking.
Especially before the newscast.
Yeah, well,
The world's
You
going
know.
to shit. That's the only way you can get through that.
I don't know
blame her.
how else you would.
No,
No,
I-
you know what's funny is real quick anecdote. 2 weeks ago, I was over there for dinner, and she's so healthy. So jokes aside, she is very healthy. And I was like, "What kind of supplements should I take?" And she's like, "Well, what are you taking now?" I'm like, "Nothing." And she's like, "What? You don't take anything?" I was like, "No, I don't take anything." And she researches everything, like very deeply. So I trust her. I spent about $300 and bought every thing in her supplement closet. And now I'm getting in trouble because my counter is full of supplement bottles and I don't even know what they're doing. But, I feel great.
Just for anybody who's listening and doesn't know, Claire's sister-in-law is Claire Devaney from Global News.
That's right.
So you said you bought $300 worth of supplements from her supplement closet. Is it a California supplement closet?
No, actually. I wonder, though.
Also, are we certain she's not in an MLM, like a supplement MLM?
No, I didn't buy them off of her.
Oh, okay.
She recommended what I purchase.
And the brand.
And the brand.
And what website to get them from.
And just follow this unique link.
Yeah. And now Claire
and
use
my code.
Claire is like, while I have you, do you want to make money from home?
Speaking of which, use code.
The podcast isn't making us money.
Okay, so I have to bring something up, and I'm not sure if it's a delicate sort of situation. And Claire and Paulina, I'm not sure if you know about it, but I asked Kevin Carius if he would provide me with a funny story or something to ask Quinn
I love
about,
that.
since Quinn and Kevin Carius worked together in the global sports department for so many years. And Kevin Carius went like this, and he looked up and he said, "Just say Jamie McLennan."
Okay, well, that is
face.
unfair and not appropriate.
And
He's got really
edit
big
this.
earlobes. That's what he means. You guys look at Jamie McLennan's earlobes. They're bigger than anything you've ever seen.
Yes, you can make wide brim hats out of them.
Yeah.
Do they cast a shade? They cast shade? You want to
Yes.
hang out with him on a hot day?
Yeah. Noodles.
So you can blame Kevin for that, and
Wow.
I can.
There was a lot of stories he could tell. But okay, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, then maybe you want to share one. Is there something that you can? I mean, I've traveled a bunch with Kevin Carius too. We went down to the Masters. We haven't even talked about golf. Do you three golf together?
I'm not
haven't
good at
yet.
golf. I did beat Quinn on the longest drive at the Jesperson golf tournament. You should ask her about that. She was super happy.
Okay, maybe tell me that story.
Oh no, Edmonton Sports Talk. It was Edmonton Sports Talk.
Terry, the women's longest drive hole is always BS because they always, for some reason, they don't expect. So it's hole 12 at the ranch. And you know how, I think it's 12, like next to the fescue hole, 12 or 13. Oh,
sounds
10,
right.
11, 12. It's 12. And the fairway gets really narrow the closer to the green you get. And I can hit it that far. So then I all of a sudden go from like a 60-yard wide green to 30 yards. So I was like just off the fairway. And so I
came in.
I find it to be BS.
With my 4-iron. Straight and steady. I knew I had no business winning that. I had no business winning that. Listen, you can have the sweatshirt.
No, I don't want the sweatshirt. That's the other thing. It's more just the pride.
What if that's a golf thing that you do, the three of you together, aside from the podcast and aside from popping into bars and whatnot, what is the thing that the three of you do together?
That is the thing. Those are the things.
For the record, I do not care about golf, so I don't do that. That's their thing. We are definitely just pub goers.
Yeah, we love
a
football.
Sunday fun day for the NFL season.
Yeah, for NFL, like we get together on Sundays. I love NFL season. That's the best. Sundays are the best.
That's really kind of where I think the podcast started, was that Paulina and I were pretty into football, and we would just kind of shoot the breeze about sports in general. And we played fantasy football together. Mm-hmm. And we were like, man, I wish there were there's so many women, and it's for everyone, but especially, there's so many women that we know that love sports and don't really have a place to talk about it so much.
They've always wanted to get into fantasy football or fantasy sports, but it can be kind of intimidating, or they don't have a league to join because it's oftentimes it's
you don't know the nuance,
or their brothers or whatever. So we also want to, create more space for people to encourage people to go make their own leagues, women to make their own leagues, or we can create some that women can join as well. So I'm hoping this year we do a Bits listener fantasy football league, which would be super fun. But yeah, Claire and I, we've been friends for a while, and we've done, we like to go to pubs, we go on ski trips, all of that kind of stuff. And then Quinn and I, Claire and Quinn had their history, which I didn't know until I met Quinn a couple years ago. The way all great love stories begin at K-Day.
What an adorable time that was. So they both texted me separately, asking for each other's number.
Yeah, it was like this beautiful like friendship was born almost immediately. Like we were working kind of collaboratively. Like the company I was working for was doing work with K-Days, so was Quinn's, and so we were kind of working collaboratively on stuff. And we're like, did we just become best friends? And then we like are texting Claire because I'm like, oh my god, you know Claire. So then destiny.
Did you go on rides after that together? Did you go on the zipper and
Held hands, got some cotton candy.
I think we went to Tegan and Sarah.
We did go to one of the concerts.
We went to one of the concerts. We were in the trenches, like we were working like mostly in K-Days in like a non-air conditioned room. So it was a grind. And then so we didn't really get to do much of the fun stuff.
Okay. I was going to ask you about the WAG jackets. Is that the Oilers' wives' jackets?
Yes.
Okay, guys, I'm so sorry. Speaking of work, I have to go, so I still have a job after this.
Okay, Claire. Thank you so much.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much, Terry.
Okay. We'll talk to you
bye,
again
guys.
soon. There you go.
Bye.
There goes Claire Devaney. These WAG jackets, are they the Oilers' wives' jackets? Is that what they're called? What does WAG stand for?
Yes.
Wives and girlfriends. So it is actually across the entire league. And no, that's fine. Listen, I recently had to Google what WAG stood for. So don't feel bad. But so every year every team puts like a playoff jacket together. And so all the women wear the jackets. And so obviously that becomes something that we need to judge.
Yeah. And it's become like more of a thing over the past few years. And like, honestly, I do think Lauren Kyle has a lot of influence in that. Like she started creating these jackets for the Oilers, and then she made some jackets for the Four Nations, like Swedish team, and also I think the Canadian team too. So she's kind of been this like jacket pioneer in hockey. And then this year it seemed like last year we heard about it for sure, and we saw some of the other teams doing their WAG jackets. But this year it felt like everyone had eyes on it. Like, ooh, what's the best jacket? Like, which team has the best jacket? And of course, naturally, on the bits, we had to rank them and tear them apart viciously.
Are you going to have your own version of the WAG jacket, the bag jacket, the bits?
Ooh, I would love that. Like a bright yellow bomber. I would love that. Yeah, we should. That's a great idea. We'll get you one.
Absolutely. It has to be a little long in the arms.
That's okay.
I am 6'5". Yeah.
We'll make sure we'll get it to your size. Don't worry. And maybe a wide brim hat. I don't know, with the bits on it.
There you go. So talking about wives and girlfriends, do you want to hear a great story about wives and girlfriends for the Edmonton Oilers? And it kind of ties in because the Oilers are playing the Dallas Stars here in the third round of the playoffs. So one of the players for the Dallas Stars is Mason Marchment. Son of course, Kim and Brian Marchment. We lost Brian way too soon, obviously. Former member of the Edmonton Oilers, Brian Marchment was. When I had season tickets back in the day, I have them currently now too, but when I had season tickets back in the day, there was a pair of seats that I split with another guy. Regardless, I went to the games by myself. I was friends with Luke Richardson, Scott Pearson, Whitey Stapleton, Cujo, Bucky, all those guys. We hung out all the time. We were playing pool down on White Avenue and stuff, and driving around in my 91 YJ Jeep. But one of the nights I went to the game, it was a Saturday night game against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I had just paid my mortgage, which was $490, and it left me with exactly $22 in my bank account. And I already had my ticket, so I took out $21 out of my bank account, or whatever it was, a $20 bill, and I had a loonie in my pocket. That's what it was. So I left $2 in my bank account. I had a $20 bill, so I could buy 4 beer, and I had a single loonie for a 50-50 ticket. So I go to the game, and I go down to the Air Canada Club. Remember, we could go down there and see the players come out and everything, and that's where everybody who was anybody hung out and stuff. So I'm down there. I see Kim Marchment. So Kim Marchment and I are standing there. Hey, how you doing? Blah, 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 blah. And we end up watching the entire first period in the Air Canada thing on the TVs. She goes, you want a beer? I said, yeah, sure. So she buys me a beer. We have the beer, and then I buy her a beer. So that's 2 beer is $10. So there you go. That is half of my money to my name after paying my mortgage, except for the $1 that I bought the 50-50 ticket with, right? So we're sitting there. There, blah, blah, blah. Intermission comes. Second period starts. I said, Kim, would you like a beer? She goes, absolutely. So I buy her a beer. It's two beers, $5 a beer. There's the end of my $20, right? Okay. We go back and forth and do this so that I bought her a beer. She bought me beer. I was out of money. Second intermission comes. We sit there. We talk with everybody who comes down. Third period starts up. And she goes, well, I guess I better go up and watch part of this game so my husband can see me in the stands. I said, yeah, sure. So she goes up to her seat. I go up to my seat. And 10 minutes left in the third period, they call the 50-50. And they called my number.
My God.
It was a Leafs game. It was $5,200 and some odd dollars. It was the biggest jackpot to that date for the 50-50. And I won it. And I just remember looking at the one ticket because you actually got a ticket. Yeah. And so I looked at the ticket and I thought, holy shit. I went up and talked to the usher. I said, where do I go if I won the 50-50? Well, the usher was like, losing her mind. Go this way, go this way. And anyway, yeah, I was drinking all night with Kim Marchment, won the 50-50. After the game, went down, went into the dressing room, talking to the guys. We ended up all going to, Scott Thornton and Pierce and Luke and all those guys. We all went to the Thunderdome. And do you think those buggers would let me buy a beer? They didn't let me buy a single beer. They were so happy that I'd won the 50-50. It ended up being this huge party at the
my
Thunderdome.
God. I mean, what an amazing, that's a magical hockey fan story. Like, that's just like one of those nights that you don't forget. That's insane.
And I miss those. It reminds me of the days when you knew the person won the 50-50 because everybody in that section would start cheering and you'd see the person running down the stairs. I miss those days.
One thing that did make me laugh when I was listening to one of your podcasts recently was the hate for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I love that you have the hate for the Leafs.
My father would have it no other way. Paulina is very convinced it's generational, though, because she doesn't have it.
I think it's an age thing. Personally, I conducted my own personal poll over the weekend at some different events, and anyone who was ranting about the Leafs and just like there's like such a strong, it's like not just like, oh, I hate the Leafs or they're annoying. It's like a very visceral like hatred. And so whenever that would happen, I was like, how old are you? And they were always they're always like 42 to like 52. So I think it's an age thing, because then I'm immediately like, after I ask them how old they are, I'm like, so what is it? Like, what do you hate? And they're like, well, back in the day with the broadcasts. So it's, you know, to me, it's giving a little bit of like old man yells at cloud, but I don't get the hate the same way that Claire and Quinn do. Like, I don't know.
You know, there's not even players. Well, okay. Matthew Nyes, and who's their ugly defenseman?
Oh, Chris Tanev.
Yeah, Chris. Wow, you knew that right away. Yeah. Those two guys I would be happy to have on my hockey team. Everybody else on the Leafs, no time for him. Austin Douche Stash, take a hike. He can go kiss my ass. And I'll tell you one of the things, speaking of old man yells at cloud, Paulina, as one of the people who watched the telecasts back in the day when you only saw hockey, because you only saw hockey on Saturday nights. And the teams that you always saw were Toronto and Montreal. And my favorite teams were Boston, Chicago, and Philadelphia. And I wanted to see those teams, but they never showed them. You always knew that they were playing. They were obviously playing other games. And this was before the Oilers were in the league, 1979. So I wasn't an Oiler fan yet, but those were my teams. I never got to see them. So I got pissed off. Every time the Leafs were on Hockey Night in Canada, I would get more and more mad. And I know why there's so many fans across the country. It's because they were on Hockey Night in Canada every Saturday.
There was no choice.
The exact rant that everyone launches into. Yes, it's the broadcast, and they call it the Toronto Sports Network. I got this version of that rant, if you will, a few different times over the weekend. I get it. It was the broadcast. But we haven't moved on. We're still...
Well, Toronto still feels like they're the center of the universe, and that is frustrating. But you know what? They're also so pathetic and so bad, and like of the softest character, like terrible character, that we actually shouldn't hate them anymore, because it's just kind of pathetic.
Like so many times, and then prior to that, they were not good. Like, they are a long-suffering fan base. And frankly, I do kind of feel like Oilers have a little bit of center of the universe syndrome too. I feel like we're the most important team, Canadian team in the mix right now and have been for a while. I mean, that's got to be annoying for the other fan bases, right?
Oh yeah, we have Connor McDavid. Of course it's annoying.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just feel like we can't really throw stones at glass houses. Is that what it is?
I expect stones to be thrown at me, and that's fine. And my non-glass house. And I'm very comfortable with it. And Toronto is full of just, big boys and girls that, don't care about each other. Okay. So they'll be fine.
Okay. That's fine.
Okay, here's a quick thing I'll do for you. Just and I'll give you each, before I give you the answer, tell you what's true. I'll give you each an opportunity to answer. First of all, Paulina, we'll go with you. The last time the Toronto Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup, was I born or not born?
Oh,
was I born or not born?
Yeah, me.
Wasn't.
No,
born.
Terry. I mean, you definitely weren't born. It was Terry.
Oh, where were you born? Terry, when were you born?
You were born in 1989. You.
Yeah, I was like, no,
that's
I
22
wasn't born.
years.
That's easy.
No.
When were you born?
Okay, for me, that's what I'm at. I'm giving you an opportunity to guess. Was I born or not born the last time the Leafs won the Cup?
I think you were born.
Quinn?
Was that the year you were born?
No, I was 2.5.
Oh, 67. You were born in 65. Okay.
I was born actually in December of 1964.
There you go.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
I knew it.
So, okay. Well, my next question was going to be how old was I? But
2.
I just blew my own question.
2.5.
I listened.
2.5.
2.5 is a correct answer.
I'm really good at this game.
All right.
Especially when I am given the answers ahead of time.
It didn't seem like it off the top.
Well, I needed all the context. Okay. At first I thought you meant when was I already born, which seemed like a really obvious question. And then it was like, no, when Terry's born. I'm like, I have no idea how old Terry is. So yeah, I mean, I had to think about it for a minute.
I had to do some quick mental math on
what
1967 would be. Why can't Maple Leafs fans just be like Cubs fans, though? Like long-suffering and just humble.
Well,
have you met people from Chicago?
You know what? Fair enough. And I actually don't know anything about Cubs fans and their attitudes. So
here is something I'll say, and this I've been very consistent on. The fans and bases and hockey clubs that I tend to dislike most are the ones with fans that just aren't really there, aren't diehard fans, ride or die. They're fair weather fans. Like, I don't love Vancouver for that reason. I would gladly take Toronto over Vancouver for that reason, because I do think at least Toronto has some loyal diehard fans. They were an original 6 team. Florida has four fans probably over there. I don't know. Those are the types of fan bases that I don't have the respect for. So that's why I'm a little bit less hard on Toronto, because I think that they do have that.
So you obviously saw the watch party of the Vegas Golden Knights there.
Yeah, that was hilarious, because I hate Vegas because they don't have fans. They have tourists. They're like, Blue Man Group was sold out. Here we are.
Yeah. So with Claire, the third of your trio of the Bits YEG podcast, with Claire gone, Claire Devaney, do you have a story that you want to share about Claire? Now, it's so fun to talk about people when they're not here.
So true.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing we always make up when she can't make a podcast is that what is the word again?
She's orienteering.
She's orienteering. She doesn't orienteer, but we always say that she's practicing for a big competition in orienteering.
She's got a big competition coming up.
Yeah.
She's got to orient.
Bless Claire. Claire's schedule is tough to manage. Claire would be the first to admit this as well. So there's been a few mishaps on scheduling. What is a good story, though? A good story about Claire.
Yeah. What did she do? Something funny or at a game?
Wow.
We should start an orienteering competition, by the way.
Claire would love to recruit you to her team that she obviously has and isn't made up. Claire has a million kids and is.
Do I need a Patagonia backpack and a compass?
Yeah.
You will want that. Yeah.
That is the vibe. That is the vibe.
Okay.
I'm struggling now. It's on the spot. I don't know. Claire's great. We love each other and everything is great all the time. So I don't know.
She seems delightful, and she was the one of the three of you that had her shit together at the beginning of the podcast.
No, that's very fair.
Yeah,
Very fair.
We don't know why we're in a dead zone that was not planned.
Yeah.
Quinn and I apologize. Claire is a lot more on top of those types of things than we.
No, that's okay. That's all good. I do have one question for you, though. This is my podcast is relatively new. I just started it October 24th, so it's just 6-7 months old now. You guys have been doing your podcast for a while now. When you're doing your podcast, do you look at the camera or do you look at the people on the screen? Because it weirds me out when I'm watching a podcast and the camera is pointing at somebody who is looking at the screen rather than the camera. You know, like,
You're
Quinn,
not
you're a TV
wrong,
person.
because also watching you do that was jarring. So now I feel like I have to look at the camera. I feel like I was looking at you, trying to think when I know a lot of the times, obviously this is also a TV background, but when I am presenting something, like when I'm talking about something very specific, or like, you know, telling the story of Rory McIlroy and winning the career Grand Slam, for example, I think I do talk to the camera because that is like very TV training. But I think when I'm just talking, I probably look at the screen more. Something to think about, Terry. Thank you for that.
I don't even know what I'm doing. I think like I'm kind of looking all over the place. It's something I've noticed about myself. I'm a little all over the place.
You're like a kitten with a laser.
I am a little bit. Like I try to look at like the person who's talking, but then sometimes I'm looking over at like, you know, I'm also the one like running the recording in the background. So I'm sometimes just like double checking that things are running okay. So I'm a little all over the place. So if you watch clips of us, I probably look crazy or cross-eyed.
Oh, Jesus. You're the tech person out of the trio.
Okay.
And she has chord blindness. Like she doesn't know what chords are. We call it chord blindness.
It's organized chaos. It is organized chaos. Today was not my finest moment for tech setup. However, I got us here. I got us talking on this screen on this couch. You know?
I will give you one thing. It took less time for you and Quinn to get together with Claire and me than it did for Gord Steinke to get together with Linda and me when we were waiting. It was 15 minutes.
Oh,
and I'm
wow.
not
I
like,
believe that.
Okay.
if you go to my YouTube page, I actually edited it down to 8 minutes of the stuff that was happening while Gord was trying to figure his shit out. And it's on my YouTube page. It's actually kind of funny.
We will be going there.
I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation today, and I do hope that I'm part of the Bits YEG WAG jacket or bag jacket, whatever you decide to call them.
Absolutely.
And we'll have to do a reversal and have reluctantly on our podcast.
Yes,
that'd be great.
Down for that?
Yeah, I would love that. Then you could quiz me on all of my knowledge of women's sport.
Going to.
Yep, that's coming. That's coming.
I was half-assed expecting it today, but I'm glad you didn't put me on the spot for that.
No, we're going easy on you today.
But be prepared.
Okay. It's been, well, she's gone now, but Claire Devaney, also Quinn Phillips and Paulina Denholm. TheBits.ca is the website, and the name of the podcast is The Bits, YEG.
Just the bits.
Just the bits.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Follow us on at The Bits YEG on Instagram.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much, ladies, for doing this. I appreciate it.
We've had a lot of fun. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Reluctantly.
This podcast, reluctantly sponsored by Homegirls.ca, a top producing team at Remax Professionals. Also by Northern Alberta Heating, with work in and out of Edmonton and hiring bonuses for experienced candidates. Email your resume to tim@northernheating.ca.
Reluctantly.